slides up on the screen so you guys can follow along with us. But we've just got a fantastic panel. I was so energized leaving our conversation. I believe it was last week, kind of in preparation with this group for our conversation today, and just really excited to dive into this topic. For those of you that may not know me or are watching this on playback, hello, my name's Maddy. I work here at the Minneapolis Regional Chamber, and I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity to collaborate on this workforce webinar series with our friends on the advocacy team. And yeah, it's just an opportunity for us as a kind of a wider team to really provide additional content for our members and other businesses in the community of where advocacy and what we're doing at the legislature and workforce issues for businesses kind of intersect with. And when we were thinking about topics for this year, we in some ways we're very grateful that we had a lot of options to choose from, but it became difficult to narrow down. And through conversations with a lot of the folks that you'll hear from today on our panel, we really felt like this was a topic that needed its own space. For folks that may not be keeping up with numbers on a month-to-month basis, back in December, Minnesota had a 2.9% unemployment rate, which was even smaller than the 3.7% national unemployment rate. And we're going to talk through like what are the experiences of the folks that we're focused in on today: veterans, military spouses, active military. What unemployment rates are they looking at? But that's just kind of a very small glimpse at what's happening here across the state. We've seen lots of great articles coming out about just kind of the need for businesses, for workers, that there's been large increases in wages, whether at the city level or just to meet inflation. We've just seen a large addition of jobs over the turnover of the year. And businesses really kind of looking left and right to understand how to best incentivize more individuals to come into the workforce, which is really where our topic for today is sitting, which is some people would say an untapped talent pool in veterans, but I'm super excited to have so many experts and passionate individuals on the call to kind of talk you through what's working, what's really needed, what's missing maybe in some outreach that businesses are doing to this community. And just to kind of give you from a boots on the ground perspective as to how, if you have maybe sort of like a veteran program or an initiative at your company or organization, how you can expand it and deepen it. And maybe if you've never thought about hiring veterans before, or have never had like a dedicated campaign around it, just like what are some initial steps that you could take a look at. And I think we're going to have some great resources and tips from today's event. So that's why we're here. That's what we're doing. I am going to turn it over to our speakers to do a short introduction of themselves, and then we will get into the program. So I'm going to pass it first to our two employers on the call. If you wouldn't mind coming off on mute to tell us a little bit about yourself. Missy, I'm going to toss it to you.
Thanks, Maddy, and hello, everyone. Welcome. It's nice to be here today. I'm super honored that I was asked to be a part of this. I work for Wells Fargo. I am the lead sourcing specialist on our military sourcing team, and really that's just a group of about 30 total employees that really foster and support Wells Fargo's efforts and insights to hire, retain, support veteran, Guard Reserve, and military spouses. The team has really expanded a lot over the last probably 5 or 6 years after I joined the team, and really would just be grateful to help answer any questions or provide insight into things that we've experienced from that perspective. So again, thank you all so much for the invite, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about everybody else.
Great, thanks, Missy. Lucas, I'll toss it to you.
Sure. As Missy said, extremely honored to be here to join you and to discuss military and veteran hiring. I am Lucas Nevins. I'm a 21-year Navy veteran. I come to Micro Foods to head up their military recruiting program, where we take the initiative of employing military hiring initiatives into the veteran community on the national scale to bring in and vet that military talent to meet the needs of our business.
Fantastic. All right, now we're going to hear from two of our, I would say, I don't know what I would put you guys in. It's such a big category. But yeah, boots on the ground folks that have programs that support veterans, whether here in the Twin Cities or nationally. Robert, can I start with you?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Excellent. Well, thank you for this great opportunity. Truly appreciate it. My name is Robert E. Willis. I am what's known as a leaver, a local veterans employment representative. And what I do is I reach out to businesses to see if they're interested in hiring veterans. U.S. Marine myself, getting my brothers and sisters employment is right up my alley. I work with another individual that we call DVOPS, which is Dislocated Veterans or Disabled Veterans Outreach Program. And they work one-on-one with the veteran to get them employment ready. And our goal is to help get our military personnel, veterans, National Guard, and dependent spouses, things of that nature, employed with what we like to do is make sure that these folks get at least a phone call. If 71 people apply for a position, 70 will wonder if they get it. Our veteran or military personnel will get that phone call. And I've been with the state for a little over, just about 5 years, April 22nd.
Fantastic. And Kayla, I'm gonna throw it over to you and I'm gonna stop sharing so I can see your faces. There we go.
Thanks so much, Maddy. Thanks so much for having us, having me on to represent my organization. I'm Keta Rodriguez. I'm the National Operations Director for 4Block. If you are not familiar with 4Block, we are a national nonprofit with the mission to assist transitioning veterans and military spouses to achieve meaningful careers. You know, we always love to emphasize the word meaningful because we don't want people to just get a job that maybe they're unfulfilled in. We want them to find meaning and purpose. We want them to find a career that they're happy with so that they can continue to contribute back to our society. We do this in partnership with some of our nation's top companies. We're super excited to be entering the Minneapolis market. You know, I know Michael Foods is hosting us this semester. We are running actually 20 cohorts beginning later this month. Wells Fargo is one of our best partners as well. So we do this in partnership with companies. And the goal really, it's an 11-week program. And the goal is to bring together transitioning veterans, whether they're on active duty and transitioning out. Maybe they're a college student who did some time in the military, went to college, and are now looking for that full-time role outside of higher education, and oftentimes even people who are maybe pivoting in careers or just looking for new opportunities. And so it's an 11-week program, and each week we are covering, of course, your traditional career readiness topics, like the technical aspects of that career search, like resume writing and LinkedIn, and telling your story, something that most people are not very comfortable at doing, especially if they spent a significant time in the military. But the secret sauce of the program is really the relationship building that our students get to do, as each week we're hosted by a different company. So for the students, it's an opportunity for them to explore different types of roles and opportunities that they may not have previously considered, explore different types of industries, and really open to their eyes to opportunities that are out there. I mean, oftentimes, transitioning service members, they may have a background in something that they didn't choose necessarily. Now they have a choice of what they're going to do in the next chapter of their life. So we want them to make a very informed decision. And oftentimes it doesn't click right away, right? That like, well, I did logistics in the military, but it's not really something that I'm passionate about, or not something that I want to look at maybe pivoting to, something else. And the fun thing is to see those light bulbs go on when they're hosted by a company, let's say Wells Fargo, and it's like, I didn't really want to go into banking, but they come to the session and realize Wells Fargo's got opportunities in IT and marketing, and there's just a whole bunch of different opportunities that are available. So just seeing those light bulbs go on, and them actually being able to consider a different type of career. And we see it happen all the time, during the course of a semester where folks end up at a company that's got a great culture like Wells Fargo. There's a self-reflection aspect to the program, so where students are asked to just identify what it is that that you're interested in. What are the types of things that you enjoy doing? What kind of a culture do you want to be in, right? Because you've been in a military culture, which is extremely different from the civilian culture. We want to make sure that they get one that aligns. And for the company, it's a huge benefit because people are coming to them career ready. They understand corporate culture, civilian culture. They've made an informed decision that helps companies on their side. Not just we want we want our students to find the right role, but we want the companies to find the right talent for their specific requirements. And so, and all together, we run 2 cohorts a year, one in the spring and one in the fall. And it's just a great opportunity to build relationships. What we teach is a relationship-based transition strategy. And I am just super thankful to be here. And hopefully, we'll make some, we'll start to develop some more relationships out of this event as well. Thank you.
Fantastic. And Keitha, you got kind of already to the heart of like what I was interested in hearing about. So for some fun context, just to keep, we're having a conversation here. And just a reminder for anybody who's on, if you have a question, like please, I have a colleague on the call that's monitoring the chat. We will, we want this to be useful. So go ahead and pop into the chat if you have any questions. Keitha's colleague, Gary, probably back in December, just kind of wandered into our office from the Skyway here in downtown Minneapolis. And we're like, hey man, how can we help you? What's up? So he told us about 4 Block and I had never heard of the organization. And I was like, this sounds really exciting. A couple months prior, I had the opportunity to meet with Robert and I was like, okay, so something's cooking here. I have a lot of friends that are former military myself. And I was like, this is really interesting. I've never seen a program like this. And I guess you kind of have spoken to a couple pieces I was most interested in hearing about the program, but I guess, do you have any like success stories or like other pieces that you want to highlight about like really that relationship time? I know that you were talking about like they're career ready when they come out of 4 Block, but like even what are some of the other interactions that you see candidates having with businesses as they're moving through your program and transitioning?
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, I mean, we have a ton of success stories. So we tell all of our students, like, we're not a job placement agency. We don't promise you a job. What we do is enable you to build relationships with, professionals in a variety of industries so that you can have those conversations and we prepare them for that moment, right? For our companies, the same thing is they're building relationships. So aside from, while we don't promise anybody a job and we don't tell our employer partners like, hey, you have to hire this many, it happens organically because people are developing authentic relationships. So they're coming into this. And so they leave the program. And I say leave very loosely because I tell everybody that comes through the program, it's like the mafia. Like once you get in, you're not getting out, right? We just are continuing to build this broad community. And so what they leave with is a really robust network of folks that are there to support. And in turn, a lot of our company partners, what we hear back from them is that, hey, this is a way for our employees to give back in a very meaningful way. And so there's other intangibles outside of the, yes, we can give you the statistics, 87% of people who go through our program report back that they found a meaningful career. The level of confidence from week 1 to week 11 is like through the roof. It grows significantly. But for our employer partners, it's like our employees love doing this. They love getting engaged. Many of them will volunteer with us as career readiness coaches. And so it's just one, we're continuing to broaden our collective impact, but also fostering that sense of community that we know is so necessary for people's well-being as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think that helps to kind of paint like a clearer image. And yeah, if you're an employer on the call and you've kind of considered something like maybe we need to have a designated program for specific populations we're looking to target to bring into our company, I think, yeah, definitely check out 4 Block's website. And we'll be sharing out some resources from everybody that's on the call today via email to everybody that was signed up for this. And we'll be sure to link them if you're watching this on playback in the description of our YouTube video. So you can check that out as well. So we're going to continue at the boots on the ground level. Robert, I'd love to turn to you. You talked a little bit in your introduction about how you serve veterans in the Twin Cities community, but I would love to hear maybe a little more in depth about what it is that you're up to and how things are going. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Just kind of want to piggyback on what Keitha was saying. What I try, and I've been in career counselor for over 17 years, and I don't want to get any of my veterans a job. If they want a job, we can get them a job, and if that's what they're just looking for. But we want to get somebody that is searching for a career. And with that, I just did a presentation this morning here at the Career Force Center called The Philosophy of Finding Your Career. And it's getting those veterans to ask themselves the right questions. And that's what makes a difference. People that are passionate about what they do, their joy goes up, their stress goes down, they live longer, they get promoted faster. I like to tell people that I'm going to date myself here now. I haven't worked since 1996. but to get our veterans into that mindset as well. And so we've got a questionnaire that we send out to our veterans, or if they anywhere within the state, if they're interested in finding employment, they kind of work their way back to Career Force. And for that questionnaire, it's got about 10 questions on there. And some of the questions ask the veterans if they are facing any type of barriers, because that's what we want to address. Those veterans that are locked on, ready to go get their thing, they go get it, don't necessarily need us. But every now and then we all have those barriers that are there. And some of them might be, or one of them is, are you between 18 and 24? If they got out of the military, chances are they have not interviewed. They have not really done a career search. And so we want to help them with that so they don't just stumble when they get out there. When they fill out the questionnaire, if there are any yeses on there, they go to our DVOP. So our DVOP can work with them one-on-one, give them those intense services. If they don't have any type of barriers, they come straight to me. And what I do is I reach out to the companies that are out there looking for what career paths that they're looking for. What's been echoed throughout here, there are some great opportunities out there, but as it's been mentioned, the unemployment rate is very low. So we're coming up with very creative ways on how to figure out how to get our veteran population or military population into organizations. I went to an event by BI Worldwide in November, and they had a luncheon for their company there to celebrate all the veterans that were employed there. But they also sent out in a company newsletter to their employees, if you know any veterans or family members, to invite them to this free lunch. And us veterans love free stuff, so going to that free lunch is always a nice thing. But once they would sit down, everybody had their time to talk, we networked and all that, then they would take the folks that were veterans that came to visit and have a one-on-one conversation with them. Not necessarily we're looking to fill for a manufacturing production manager, what have you, but what is it that you want to do? And then they try to find a spot for them. We did something very similar with Michael Foods. They prepared breakfast for us. And so we brought some veterans that were looking for jobs, and we went out there and had this delicious breakfast. Thank you, Lucas, kind of paying that forward, what have you. But then they gave a presentation on Michael Foods, an interviewing presentation. Then they also gave some opportunity for some folks to do some mock interviewing and then tour the facility. This gave our veteran candidates an opportunity to meet some of the HR personnel there, interact with them, see what the company's going on. Again, it's an opportunity to get that foot in the door so they can figure out if this is the right match for them. And so doing initiatives like that, because they say it was an application pool, it's more of an application puddle now with a smaller amount of folks that are out there, but being creative and innovative in ways that we can reach out to veterans and connect with them. As mentioned earlier, I reach out to these businesses, and over the last 5 years, I've reached out to over 831 businesses and made that connection with them. And for me, it's making my job a lot easier because it's very PC to hire veterans. As we all know, veterans come with loyalty, teamwork, leadership, enthusiasm, going the extra mile. And these are qualities that employers are looking for. And so for those folks that are out there that are interested in this, we're more than willing to kind of connect with you. I also give a presentation called Interviewing or Better Ways to Interview Veterans that I can do at any company out there, whether it's on campus or if it's in a hybrid or just totally virtual. It takes about 45 minutes, but it gives the opportunity to educate HR folks on better ways to educate or better ways to hire veterans. The example I use is Wells Fargo reached out to me a couple of years ago and they said, you know, we're having difficulty interviewing veterans. They tend to give us very short, concise answers, and we feel like getting information from them is like pulling teeth. And so I put together this presentation to help them out. And in that specific example, it's not that we're trying to give short, concise answers, but rather that's what we've been trained to do. You've got a company commander here, and he or she needs to get a report from 15 different people. They want the shortest amount of information that's necessary. But if they want more, they'll ask them to elaborate, which in essence is giving them permission to speak freely. So if Misty was interviewing me and Misty looks at my resume and says, you know, Robert, I see that you were in the Marine Corps. What did you do in the Marine Corps? And I might answer with, well, my MOS was 5811, military policeman. Now, in my head, I fully answered this question, and I gave her 3 different variables on it. And if she didn't know how to interview veterans, she might go on to the next question. But if she does know how to interview veterans, she might say something like, well, Robert, I'm not familiar with that acronym MOS. What is that? Oh, that's military occupational specialty. That's the term the Marine Corps uses for the role of 5811, which is also known as military policeman. Got it. So what did you do as a military policeman? Now she's giving me permission to speak freely. And what you found out from this phone call, I'm going to talk and talk and talk and talk kind of deal. But that's one of the little ways that we can help our veteran population get into these organizations by teaching the HR folks as well as the hiring managers better ways of interviewing veterans. Our goal is to help our military community out, find fantastic jobs and career paths.
That's awesome. Yeah, and just have to say 831 businesses, that is a handful of businesses. We here at the Chamber have about 1,500 members, and I would say we probably don't connect with them one-to-one every single year. So that's a fantastic number, and it's been really fun, Robert, especially since we have connected for the first time on LinkedIn, probably not even a year ago. The word is getting out. It's pretty rare that I will approach a business now where they're like, oh no, I don't know about those services through Deed and Career Force or who Robert is. So just want to like give you a shout out and say like doing the good work. People know about it. Hopefully they continue to really, you know, tap into the resource that you provide in our community. So thanks for that. Well, fantastic. So we've heard a little bit about some supports that are really focused on getting veterans these not just jobs but careers. I really want to turn it over, and I know we planned for like almost the largest portion of this call to be focused on hearing from Missy and Lucas, and we can kind of jump in. So you know, let's have a fluid conversation. But Missy, if it's cool, I might toss it to you to kind of get us started and
Sure.
cemented in this program that I know that you said has really been expanding over the last 5 years, and yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, what I'll share is the thing that initially drew me to this, just to provide some backstory. And I think this is a great thing for whether it's an employer, it's an individual, it's you know, a hiring manager, to think about kind of where that motivation is. And for me at Wells, I was in recruiting, I loved it, but I kept feeling like I wanted to have more impact on diversity just in general. And when I thought about that and I spent time really thinking about what that was for me, I'm also very passionate about supporting the armed services. I never served, but I'm very patriotic. I have a ton of respect for these individuals that are sacrificing this time and effort to give the freedoms that are out there. And I thought, you know, can I find a way to take, I'm good at the recruiting and match that with something that I think is a really positive place to do it. And I'm fortunate enough that I was able to find a job that let me do that. So I tell people all the time, I get paid to do this. Like, it's very cool. And as I've grown in my own career and developed this, it's really gotten to a place where as an organization, yeah, we do it because it's expected and we need to, and all of the reasons that everybody kind of knows. But we've really started to find that our culture has shifted to this acceptance of this diversity of thought and these diverse individuals that are coming in and really challenging us to be better at what we are. We're a very risk-forward organization, very keenly aligned to military skill sets. So when you think of, we're not just a bank, the things that, like Keitha mentioned, we have a lot of other things, right? The bank is huge and it's very important and we need it to support our community, but we have a lot of other things. I don't have banking background, right? There's logistics, there's supply chain, there's tech positions, there's public affairs, and we need people that have that diversity mindset to come in. And so we've been really fortunate to take our support of our organization and develop programs and pathways to do this. So just like Robert does that with companies, we have our own way of supporting veterans and understanding how to interview. It's a little bit geared more towards Wells Fargo, as it should be, but it talks about the things that he talks about, right? We coach our managers on how to interview, that stuff. And these are things, regardless of company size, that if you're looking to establish or grow, I think are important, right? Understand why you want to bring that talent in. Is it because it's needed? Great. Is it because they're diverse? Great. Is it because they have great skill sets that you want to take advantage of? All of those are appropriate. Then find the way to support that, right? Is it education of your manager? Is it education of how do our job descriptions align to the skill set and read in a way that a military individual is going to see themselves doing the job, right? If it's too technical, are they going to see that? Just like a military resume can be technical and we need to understand that, they need to understand what we're looking for in skill sets. And so I think there's a lot of things that companies can do regardless of size or financial ability or support from wherever to do that. And it's things like good job descriptions. Are you branding yourself as a company that's open to the skill set? Are you willing to learn how to interview these individuals? Are you open to the transferable? The fact that they may have done financial work in the military doesn't mean it doesn't translate into a financial institution. It's got to be the right job, but can you do that? And so I think as we've grown our program, that's the one thing I would offer as my kind of advice is think about why, and then what are the simple things that you can do that don't take a lot of time or resources that will really open up the aperture of the individuals that are considering your organization. And I think very simple things can make a very big impact.
Absolutely. And it's been fantastic to, we've already kind of touched on a couple great resources. So yeah, if you maybe are really interested in taking a look at those job descriptions and understanding how to maybe communicate with the entire HR team, like what transferable skills are, what does that mean? I think that Robert's workshop that he was speaking about would be a fantastic resource. That's also something that we are really big proponents here of at the Chamber, which is we are all about skills-based hiring practices and understanding that there are so many skills that we all get from running a garage sale, from being a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout, so many different parts of our lives that may not translate to like a fancy looking thing on a job on a resume. So
yeah, but sometimes the fancy isn't needed. Like
right,
we tell a lot of folks, because we get a lot of questions on, well, I don't have a finance degree. Well, I don't either. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that can sometimes be the perception of degrees are great and in certain roles we need them. And we know that our military population is highly educated, but you actually have skills that we look for that are going to have a bigger impact. And so that's where I go back to those organizations of what is it you're actually trying to get, and then make sure that that's translated in your outreach, your conversations, your interviewing within whatever appropriate means you can at your organization. But that's already a roadblock that takes it out of the way. And I'm sure Robert would, hopefully agree with that, that's then a roadblock they don't have to fight because it's already out of the way of the veterans in that space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Robert, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I want to kind of piggyback what Missy was saying there. Because Wells Fargo is a huge organization with a lot of resources, but smaller companies can do very similar things through their actions. One real easy one is to put on your recruiting page something like veteran-friendly company. Very low cost to put on there and put it on there. So those veterans that are looking for jobs, when they see that, they're more prone to apply for these positions because they already know they're being welcomed to that organization. As you know, in June of 2020, things in Minneapolis just went crazy. But the aftermath, and I saw a lot of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff on the web pages that I've been seeing. And so after having that event happen, I've been talking to employers to do something like they'll put the percentage of veterans working at their organization. So they already know there's a family there, or there's an employee resource group for veterans there. Some companies have put a photo of somebody working in their accounting department. Alice was in the Air Force for 10 years, and here's Alice working for us now. Carousel Motor Group actually went around to several other locations and took a 10, 15-second video of different folks that were different locations and the different branches. These are very inexpensive ways for companies to reach out to the veteran population and the military population with low cost to it. I didn't mention this earlier, and I know that Missy and I were talking about this. They are a Beyond the Yellow Ribbon company. There's an organization out there that companies can join to figure out how they can better help and serve the military community, like what Wells Fargo's is doing. Very simple things to do. If you need that information, I'm more than happy to share that with you. Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, robert.willis@state.mn.us. My
Awesome.
3,000-word answer to that.
Right. No, we'll take it. Yeah, and we'll be sure to put that in the description of the video and send it out to everybody that's online today as well afterwards. Lucas, I want to toss things over to you and kind of get your voice into the conversation. I know that Michael Foods has already been shouted out once, so that's fantastic, but would love to hear from your seat, like where things are at and where you see things going and kind of like maybe where you started. So
yeah, so I mean, the great thing about going sort of last in the conversation is you get to hear all these great answers and then sort of dwell on them. But to allude or to sort of piggyback what Missy and Robert were saying is, the quickest way to eliminate military talent is to not establish a branding or marketing campaign to draw that talent in. And, you know, it goes exactly what they said, from your job descriptions to not marketing yourself as having, you know, potential resource groups, and being able to identify with those that are currently transitioning or that are veterans that are looking to move into that next company, because maybe the priority is trying to surround themselves with other veterans, right? Because that is a priority for some veterans when they get out. I want to be surrounded with people like me. That doesn't mean you're not going to necessarily get that talent if you don't have it, but what are you doing to attract the talent, right? And I think that those are the big pieces that a lot of companies, when they're starting, fail to capture, and they don't necessarily illustrate it in a successful manner. That makes people go, you know what, this is a military friendly company, or this is something that I've never. I think the other piece is understanding the scope of how you want to expand your recruiting capacity to meet those military hiring initiatives. Because as you said earlier, there's companies that come in all different shapes and sizes, right? You have small companies, large companies, medium-sized companies, super small companies, right? And you have to understand where you're at on that scale, and you have to scale your marketing and your recruiting campaign to meet the needs of that. So if you know you only employ maybe 100 to 200 people, you know, maybe pairing yourselves with a nonprofit organization would probably be better for you, because you may not have the necessary resources or need to go out and reach a national brand, right, and try to market national, and vice versa. Maybe you're a medium to large size company that's employing 3, 5, 10,000 people or more. If you're like Wells Fargo, right, probably 1 million or a couple 100,000 out there, right, where you need that team, right, that focused team that has centralized talent, that has the specialty of knowing what military recruiting is encompassed, right? And I think that when you are in that mid to large size region of a company, that you need to have specialists. You need to have people that know what it takes to be successful in the military recruiting genre. Because if you don't, then you're sort of, once again, you're leading the way, and you're not really know which way you're going to go, and you're not going to meet the specific metrics that your company is looking for. So you want to have that subject matter expert, as we say, right? That knows, hey, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to reach out to. These are the programs I need to sort of rely on. These are the resources that I need to take into account. And you start building your program with the understanding of the scope and the expansion of the need of your business. And I think that when you can sit down and have an honest conversation to know what the end goal is, maybe your company wants to say, hey, I want to have 10% veteran employee, right? You know, what is it going to take to get to that 10%? And you start with the finished product, and you work backwards to understand what you need to get to them.
Right.
And I think part of that too is I think Lucas brings up some great points, is regardless of size, educate yourself, right? Just like we're asking these military personnel as they transition to educate themselves in the corporate space. If you're looking to get into that and don't have a ton of knowledge, take the time to educate yourself. Nobody is saying you have to do this tomorrow. And I mean, again, Wells is a large company that has resources. I learn something new all the time. And I think that's also a place that I would offer to any organization, just like we want the military community to educate themselves on our organizations and the things that we need to be a successful business. You know, I'm sure anybody else would share that we want the businesses to be educated on what the uniquenesses of this population, right? Are you able to support if somebody's in the Guard and Reserve and needs to go and provide service? Are you understanding that if their spouse is still active, that they may need to move, and are you able to accommodate that? And if you can't, that's fine. That's not wrong. That's just realistic. And don't put yourself in a space that then you compromise your business or the individual that's coming to you. And I think that's the one piece I go back to, is this is a population that really appreciates transparency and honesty. And if you're not ready for it, don't force it, because you're not going to help anybody, right? I think in that space, and I think Lucas brings up some great points of understand where you want to go and how you want to scale, and educate yourself and your company so you can do it in a way that becomes sustainable and feels good for everybody. That's what we all want, is that we get employees that want to stay. Employees want to go somewhere and stay, and that's what everybody's hoping for in the end of this process.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think, you know, and you alluded to that, Missy, is, you know, how do we retain that military talent? Because getting the military talent is one piece, but how do we retain it? And, back to your point, I see some companies and you can turn on the news and see it, 30,000 layoffs, 40,000 layoffs, 50,000 layoffs of employees. And unfortunately, there's a lot of veterans in that group. Every time I get on LinkedIn, I see a lot of veterans that are being let go by their companies. And unfortunately, I guess the number one reason that I'm seeing and we've been reading about is, over hiring or projects falling through due to poor management or poor decision making, right? And it's easy for a business to have an excuse like that, but at the end of the day, we're all in business, right? And we're veterans and they're passionate about what they do. And you don't want to set yourself up for failure as a business by overexpanding and overscaling, right? With the intention of, hey, we have these great projects in mind and we want to bring in veterans to do it, and then maybe folks doing it back. So I think that having that fundamentalism of understanding where you want to go is extremely key. And I think the second part of that we were talking about is the education that Robert was speaking about, and Missy briefly spoke on. The education, I think, is not just within your frontline leaders, within your HR recruiting teams. It's across the entire landscape of your business, because anybody who is interacting with the hiring process should be formally educated on what it takes to hire them. And that boils down to the bare basics of rank structure, right? And MOSs or things of that nature. So not saying they need to be able to recite it off the top of their head, like, oh, that guy was a sonar technician, or that guy was a machinist major or gunnery. Something they shouldn't have to do that, but they should have an idea of, oh, this gentleman or was a lieutenant, or was a colonel, or was a major, or was a gunnery sergeant, right? And they should be able to understand, okay, well, what aligns with it and what comes with that? Well, obviously leadership, program management, senior level, decision making, maybe product creation, all these different things and terms and soft skills and abilities should be sort of aligned with, certain things that you are putting into practice within your business when you're educating hiring managers and other senior leaders, so they have that. Like I said, I call it the bat belt, right? They have it in their bat belt. So when it's time to make a decision, they have the resources right there on their belt and can be able to make a decision. And at the end of the day, like you said, not everyone has all the answers. So it's okay to go back to that person within your organization that you sort of designated or brought onto your team for military hiring to be able to clarify or expand, like Robert said, to expand on some of that information to make sure that we're able to extrapolate as much information from a veteran as possible during their hiring process.
And if I can just piggyback on a couple different things that were said. One of them, what Missy was talking about in reference to those job descriptions, to look at those transferable skills. I had one veteran retired out of the military with 20 years, and he's looking for a job in personnel. And I'm like, it's human resources now, or the people culture, what have you. But that individual didn't know that terminology, but the skill sets were definitely there. And I also want to kind of mention the aspect, not just the military personnel, but also their spouses. Because somebody may look at a resume and say, you were here for 2 years and here for 2 years, and why all the job hopping? Was because their mate or their spouse got transferred or went someplace else. And so look at these skill sets a little more in depth and ask those right questions, because you could have a phenomenal person in front of you, but it's these old biases that are saying, well, you're a job hopper or whatever it might be.
Yeah, if I can just chime in for a moment, one of the things that we do with our students is we teach them to translate their skills, right? So, to the point that everybody's making is that, you may have had a job as an MP, or you may have had a job as a logistics officer, right? But how do you translate that? And, what we tell, transitioning veterans is like, no one's just going to give you a job. You need to put in the work. You need to, it's learning how to communicate in your new environment or the new culture you're trying to, that you're joining. But it's so great to see employers actually trying to do the same, to meet people in the middle, right? Educate themselves on how to effectively interview a veteran. And so when you have that, I mean, the opportunities for finding the right person for your requirements is just increased exponentially. We talk about veterans that they've got so many great transferable skills. There's inherent diversity in the veteran population. There's, folks with leadership, as Lucas mentioned, like there's so many skills that people are looking for, because you can teach you know, maybe not the stuff that's, you know, I can't be an accountant just like that, but there are so many jobs that you can teach the technical part, right? But when it comes to work ethic and when it comes to, you know, leadership, or when it comes to being able to prioritize, you know, things, being able to go in from like one job into the next. In the military, you do that all the time. You're at one location and you're doing something, and then you move to another location, and you actually can put, you know, be in a completely new role where you have no experience and you make it happen. So flexibility, there's just all kinds of there's a lot of soft skills that come from having that military experience that really work well and really contribute to an organization. So if we have the folks coming out that we're saying, hey, you need to put in the work and you need to be able to tell someone what you did, so that they can, in a way that they can understand, but then having the employer also do the same and say, hey, I can dig a little bit deeper on this one. You know, we have a military spouse program as well, where we, you know, we're told, yeah, a lot of volunteer work maybe, you know, to Robert's point, right? It might look like job hopping, but all of that experience, you know, that flexibility, being able to, I always say that military spouses are logistical masters, right? Because you're picking up, moving, you know, around, and there's just so many things that you learn how to do, that resiliency, that ability to adapt in a new environment, like right off the bat. All of those things are just a really, really great, can make for a really great asset to a company. And so when we have those two kind of meeting in the middle, it's just, I mean, it's really incredible to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, you know, our push as well to have an entire webinar dedicated to this topic is, yeah, just really inviting businesses of all different sizes, of all different industries, to really like absorb this information. And I think that you know, I'll speak for myself only. Like, I just think that there's a lot of expectations that maybe folks coming out of their military service will go into very prescriptive industries and very specific roles due to their experience, and really having like a more, I love our conversation today, like having a broader conversation as to like what transferable skills look like, and really, you know, leveraging, like Robert and Kate, I'm kind of pointing towards you, like leveraging resources that we have in the Twin Cities community that are really preparing these folks that are not just looking for a job, they are looking for a career that is value aligned and skills aligned. I just think is really important, because I wouldn't want maybe a business from a specific industry to say, well, you know, it doesn't sound like from the outside that their skill set makes sense for us. Like, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. You know, maybe if we get one or two, that's, you know, cool, whatever. They're nice people. That's fine. But really opening yourself up, and leveraging resources in our community to think through, like, what does it actually mean to create a recruitment, hiring, onboarding, orientation strategy around a population that has this skill set and these experiences. So just feel the need to reiterate that, because I think that there's a lot of conversation, whether it's online, in person, kind of in the hiring community, around untapped talent pools, and like what industries those people are for, or like what makes the most sense. So I just kind of wanted to throw that into the mix. And we had a question. So I want to read it. Ron, thanks for putting that in there. And this is getting into the weeds, and I love the weeds. So whoever wants to hop in on this, like, please come on in. I'll read it in full. So could you talk about different veteran subgroup strategies given the very low unemployment rate with limited resources at companies? Is it better to focus on veteran subsets where you might have a higher probability of success? And he listed some examples, like veterans with less experience, which I think Robert talked a little bit about, that they may just be younger in age. Veterans with accommodations, maybe due to a disability, which he is assuming that maybe they might have a higher unemployment rate, or like poaching veterans from poorly performing companies by offering higher pay and benefits.
So I'll jump in really quick, just because I'm a larger, and I think when you think of that, it can vary company size to resources. So I'll give you an example. Wells, we have programs for a lot of that. We have a person with disabilities, veterans can fit there, right? We have a military spouse program, that's for spouses. We have early careers or education stuff that can be for somebody who's coming through an internship, whether it's traditional or non-traditional. I go back to, I think it's important, that he recognizes that can be good or have potential in some of that. I would offer, it's also, again, going back to, what does your company need? You can tap into a disabled veteran, and I mean no disrespect to this, but they may not fill the need that that your company has, and then you're opening yourself up to that wasn't successful. So while it's great to look at that as a potential resource, to look at those options to bring them in, and I absolutely encourage that organizations do that, I can't think of any individual in this community that would want to be a fix in spite of what the company needs. They're in this because they want to be a part of a mission and a plan. They want to have an output that's important to the success of that. And if them coming in hinders the success, it doesn't matter, I guess. And that may not be the right word, but I hope that's making sense. And that I don't know that Lucas would hopefully agree with that too, is at the end of the day, we still have organizations and companies and functions that need to be done. And if you find that a disabled veteran can do it and do it well, and that's an untapped resource, by all means, utilize it. But do it because it's the right thing for the organization and you're going to get the output that you need, because that's setting that veteran up for success. And all of us want that. We're not here to fill this just to fill it. It's they deserve a right to be in a place that's successful for them. And so if that's going to the subgroups, great. If it isn't, that's okay. Right? Don't do it just to do it. Do it because it's the right fit for your organization. And I think that is sometimes the harder part to answer is, look, we can't support accommodation for a disabled individual. That's okay. That's okay. Right? They might not be the right place for you right now. And that's a respect for that organization or that individual population. And that's okay to respect that. Right? I think that's not bad, that's just real. And I would hope that becomes the message. And Lucas may have some different perspective from his lens, but I go back to, I would never want a manager to hire a disabled veteran just to hire a disabled veteran. They need to hire that person because it's the right person for the job, and there's going to be a successful output on the end of that.
Yeah, I agree, right? I mean, you should be, I call it intentional hiring, right? You should have intention behind every hire that you make. It shouldn't be, I'm hiring a veteran just to fill a seat. Now, you bring up some great points, and I love that you brought up number one, right? Veterans with less experience who are to hire, unemployment rate and more experienced veterans. There's a couple different things that come to mind when I talk about that subset group or that subgroup. And one is apprenticeship programs and internship programs. Maybe you're a company out there and you want to increase your veteran presence, and you're considering, how can I do it? And the veterans that I previously interviewed, or maybe the work, they just didn't sort of cut the check when it came to experience or talent, right? Well, what can we do as a company, right? Well, let's create a sponsorship or an apprenticeship program where we can bring folks in for 6 months to a year. Maybe pay them below what a normal, person in that role would get paid, and then you get a year of training them to the standards of your company, and then have the opportunity to bring them into them, right? I'm not saying pay them minimum wage either, right? What I'm saying is, something fair within the market that lets you tailor that veteran and see what qualities and skills they bring, and then transition them into a full-time role. And once again, it could be 3 months, right? I mean, each company's different, and it depends on the scope of the role. And the second piece of that is, once again, each company's different. They have different roles, different industries. So, what you're getting with somebody with less experience is completely different than what you're getting with somebody that did 20 to 25 years experience. And, even veterans that are less experienced, they are also disabled, right? So, you have some intersectionality among some of these subgroups that sometimes we don't often think about. I think that when we look at disability, and I'll piggyback Missy, I fully concur. It's really understanding if they do have a disability, are we able to provide the necessary accommodations? And you have to make that extremely clear with the employee or the potential veteran prior to them coming on board. I've seen when I worked at Amazon previously, and, recruiting over there, and we had a lot of disabled veterans that would come into leadership roles. And unfortunately, they would be on their feet for 12 to 16 hours a day, walking 15 to 20 miles inside a 2 million square foot facility. Some of these people, they have lower extremity disabilities that prevent them from doing those things, so they didn't last very long. And, unfortunately, during the hiring process, as an example, that was never explained to them, right? And there was never clear communication of what the expectations of the role were from a physical demand standpoint. So I think the understanding and knowing what roles you have, Ron, and being able to determine what may be the best subgroup or how you want to advertise is going to be ultimately what's beneficial to you and your company.
And then I would just say utilize individuals like Robert or Kate and those nonprofits to get into those subgroups, because they're going to have some additional insights or education that might help you in those informations. I go back to that education piece, right? Understand why and what they may have as recommendations in that space to look at that and to see what that looks like. I think that also can be more impactful for organizations that maybe aren't as impacted. Like I'm at a company that we can't ask that stuff. Like that, we are legally not able to do that. And I think there becomes restrictions when you think of size or scope of organization. So I think it's also knowing your need and your comfort level in what that looks like, and then using your nonprofit partners to get that information. I think that was a good question, by the way. I really like that somebody asked that. And I think it's really individually based on the organization and what their need, comfort, et cetera, looks like.
Another thought that came to mind, there was a company out in Eden Prairie where they decided at one point to have a luncheon gathering of their current veterans. And they brought in 14 veterans, and it was a great thing. Everybody had their lunch, what have you. Then they put it in the company newsletter, and the next month, 36 individuals showed up. Some people don't acknowledge their veteran status or their connection to the military because of some of the stereotypes that are out there for certain veterans, PTSD and things of that nature. But by working with who you currently have employed there, they now have a subgroup of themselves. And now they see John over there or Jane over here, and now they're connected in a different level, which also adds to retention, because we don't want to let our brother or sister down. We're all working to accomplish that same mission. And if we know that we have more of ourselves around there, our brothers and sisters, we're more likely to stay tuned on the goal of that organization and accomplish that mission, because it's personally, intrinsically important to us.
Absolutely. And yeah, Missy, similar. I just want to echo Ron. Thanks so much for the question. And I think, it can be at times, and I've sat in on many, many webinars where you're like, so everything's like different depending on the size of your organization and your industry. It's all and I guess we as a group really want to highlight like the nuance. And I think we've done a really good job today of reiterating that there are resources and there are individuals in our community and on this call that are passionate and want to have a conversation. And I'll say, the chamber is happy to be a connector. We don't pretend to understand at the depth of a recruiter at a mid-sized business in the Twin Cities Metro, like what would be the best fit for you. We're not here to create a strategic plan for you, but we are here to maybe push you on some ideas and help you to think through what it would look like to engage this population. What do transferable skills look like? That's where we can be a thought partner. And then, yeah, just want to be a resource and a connector. So yeah, just appreciate the depth that we can get at in a topic that maybe for those of us on the call that are listening in or watching on playback, maybe you've never thought about it before. So hopefully you're walking away with some new tools in your toolbox. Well, I always kind of like to do a little bit of a round robin for any of our speakers to just kind of put out like their last couple thoughts. And I'd love even maybe sort of a call to action. I have one that will send us on to the rest of our day, but I'll allow any speaker, you don't have to just kind of come in and say your piece, and then we'll close things out.
So I will, and I will, because I actually have to drop a few minutes early and head to another meeting. So
no worries.
I apologize to do this, but the day in the life of a back-to-back meeting day, I would offer as a larger company and as being somebody who's a small part of a larger team, be willing to learn. Whether you are the hiring manager, the recruiter, the HR professional, the business owner, whatever the level that you are, your action should be, what can I do to take the next step? Is it educating? Is it spending time thinking of my strategic outputs? Is it evaluating what I'm already doing and making one change? Can it be, I'm going to spend 2024 making our job descriptions more friendly? I'm going to spend 2024 understanding what programs are at other companies. I think a little step can go a big way, and it sounds cheesy, but everybody says it all starts with the first step. Take a step. Make a connection, go to somebody that you haven't talked to, learn what that is, and be willing to learn. And I feel like that is something that we tell not only the veterans that we work with, come in and be willing to learn. We don't want you to come in and be an expert. You can't be, right? We tell it to the hiring managers, be willing to learn in the interview, be open to the conversation and dialogue. And our team continues to be willing to learn on what works and what doesn't. And so I think my last piece of advice is be willing to learn and be okay knowing that. That's good. You don't have to be the expert to have success in this. And I think veterans will appreciate that you're normal and human and humble and you're learning as you go, because they want to be given that same grace. And I would offer that that's what I would hope anybody would leave with. I appreciate it. Again, I hate to drop. Robert, I will message you. I have some things coming up that I could use some potential candidates in Minnesota for. So I will send you a little message, because I might have something that I'm looking for some help on. So not to segue this, but Maddy, thanks for the connection.
Absolutely, Missy. Happy to be a connector, and have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, anybody can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help answer. But Kate, as always, we appreciate your help, and we're excited for our next 4-block group. And Lucas, it was nice to meet you. Thank you for your service and all you're doing. And I appreciate the time. I'm sorry to have to drop and leave you all, but thank you so much.
Thanks, Missy.
Kind of piggyback on what Missy was saying. I've been doing motivational coaching for a long time, and this is one of the first things I give somebody that's trying to accomplish something is this sign right here. What are you prepared to do? So for the employers out there to have that mindset, if you want to hire more veterans, what are you prepared to do? And I tell the folks out there that first, you're not going to have answers to this question, but the more it kind of rolls around in your head, the more you're going to get better ideals about how to hire more veterans. And so it's having it consciously in front of you on your desk, in your office, part of your meeting is, as an organization, what are we prepared to do to hire more veterans, and see where it kind of goes from there. It's all kind of starts from that.
I kind of want to just piggyback on both of you as well. You know, in knowing that, you know, some companies may not have like significant resources to dedicate towards veteran hiring, but there are very simple things that you can do. You can connect with organizations like ours, you know, 4-block. You know, you're welcome to come to us, you know, connect with us and sit in on a session and just kind of observe like how, you know, to learn, you know, from veterans, understand their challenges, right? That might turn some light bulbs on for you. Or companies that are hosting our sessions, and a couple of, you know, little things that you can pick up to help you understand, you know, the hiring this, you know, this demographic a little bit better. So there's some really simple things that are not, you know, that don't take a whole lot of resources. It just kind of get connected. You know, we tell our students all the time, like, hey, you reach out to someone and just say, hey, I'd love to have some, you know, so if I can get on your calendar for 15 minutes, I want to poke your brain about what it's like to work at Michael Foods, right? Or what other organization. And so the same can work in reverse. You can just hop on and, you know, come on in and just, you know, just start listening. So that's, you know, one small step.
Love it. Lucas.
Yeah, I mean, once again, going last, it's another good answer to take, right? But no, I think that being intentional is extremely important. You know, knowing the plan and knowing the vision. You know, if you don't have the vision, create the vision, and sticking to the plan and be intentional in what you do. I truly believe that, you know, the amount of time that you put into the preparation and you put into the execution, you know, your success will be reflected in that. And you know, a successful program is not built in a day. If it takes you a year, if it takes you 18 months to get there, then so be it. That's how long it takes. But you want to make sure that you have all your eggs in one basket before you move forward, because at the end of the day, we are here to help veterans. We want to make sure that the veterans are getting the best possible process and the best possible access to the programs. And if we put together programs that, you know, aren't very well thought out and incomplete, you know, they're not going to have the best experience, and we're going to, in the long run, not have the best opportunity to retain them. So just be intentional in what we do, have a vision and stick to it, and move on.
Great. Yeah, just to kind of fully flesh that out, take a step. What are you prepared to do? Simple steps, get connected, and be intentional. So we're right at our time. Just want to say thanks again to Missy, who I knew had to hop off, but our speakers, Keita and Robert and Lucas, we really appreciate your time. And if you're still watching or you're watching on playback, we appreciate your time and attention, and we hope that you learned something today. I think we'll end it there. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Appreciate the invite.
Thank you.
Bye, friends.
Enjoy the rest of your day.